Welcome to the Christian Coach Podcast, where our mission is to serve coaches through conversations so they can lead like Jesus. I'm Gian, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jim Good and Chad Simpson. Hey, guys.
What's up, Gene?
Hey, Gian.
We haven't been together for a while. We've been going our separate ways. We even had some guest hosts coming in. Chad, my first question is, how is baby girl doing?
Thanks for asking. We got a nine-week-old baby, Kate. She's precious. She's a gift, and we don't want to complain, but there's definitely the challenges of some sleepless nights and those questions. Why are you crying right now? But it's been fun. Our older three kids are older this time around, and that's been a gift to kind of watch them care for baby Kate.
Yeah, Jim, you have teenagers, and you still ask them, "Why are you crying right now?" Right?
I do. They're asking me why I'm crying because I'm paying for all their food that they eat. Grocery shopping has turned into like a nightmare with teenage boys, but we're blessed.
Awesome. We want to get together in December and just talked about a little bit of seasons of rest and how, as coaches, as leaders, we need to figure out what our schedules look like so that we can incorporate rest into our season. Chad, how do you incorporate rest into your job and into family life and those things?
Man, right off the bat, tough questions from G-Man. No, I feel as I think about the coaching career, we had to learn, like the first year that you're going through it, you just don't know what's coming up. You're going week to week. You're always like 2 weeks behind, right? And I feel as you go through season 1, season 2, season 3, you start to add some of the forecasting of what's coming ahead, and you're able to reflect, talk with the spouse to know what's it been like in the past. And so, yeah, I feel just first to just probably have grace that we're not going to have it perfect each season. But I think as we grow as coaches, we'll start to be able to forecast and predict and know when we need a vacation, when we need to just take a Monday off. So we can prolong our excellence and our growth. But yeah, that'd be my first thought, G-Man.
Yeah. What was a mistake you made when you just started coaching tennis? And then you look back and you're like, "Oh, I should have done that different."
Oh, man, probably checking emails 24 hours a day. And I think as I reflect on just the Christmas break coming up, for us as tennis coaches, the spring season's the big one. And so you're always trying to sneak in a last minute player. But out of my 7 years as a head coach, I know 6 of them, we were like pressing that last minute, trying to get one recruit through the admissions. And, admission shuts it down for 2 weeks at Christmas. And we're like, come on, just check the box, let them into the school. But I think that was just added stress, partly on my, delaying the recruiting process and needing to get somebody in the last few weeks. But yeah, I remember year 7, that Christmas break was so sweet because I wasn't trying to recruit a player in to get him in January 1.
Yeah. I remember one time I got a phone call from my compliance officer on Christmas Day saying, "Hey, this girl just became eligible." And I was like, that is nuts that everyone is still working on Christmas Day. But that was a Christmas miracle because we thought she was not going to get cleared to play. Jim, how about you? How do you handle the seasons when you were a coach and maybe now that you work in ministry? How do you handle the seasons of rest and work?
Well, looking back and reflecting, I would give myself an F, probably an F minus in my 20s and 30s, because my personality, those who know me, is go, 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 A-type personality. And I just automatically assumed, activity meant achievement. And I would brag on my multitasking. Look how much I can do. I can balance this, and this. And man, not until about in the 40s, when you start figuring things out that you don't actually know it all, you start slowing down a little bit. And I think the good leaders, the great leaders, are able to delegate and able to realize that they don't have to do it all. And once you kind of understand that concept, it really opens up your eyes in your leadership. And I think for me, too, God has ways of slowing you down. And if you don't do it yourself, man, he will find a way. It could be COVID. It could be, injury, it could be an illness, it could be just something at home. And I look back in my life, and there were times that I knew, now I know God was slowing me down. And I'm just reminded of that verse, Coach, be still and know that I am God. So we need to find those rhythms of rest and just kind of recharging. It doesn't always have to be go, go, go. And I wish I could go back in my 20s and 30s and figure out a way to get that.
Yeah. For basketball coaches or other coaches that are in season during the holidays, that can be tough. You know,
Yeah.
Chad and I can't relate because we were mostly a spring sport. But what are some of the things that now you're working with college coaches mostly? What are you telling them, you know, as the season's still ramping up, but you got the holidays where the family kind of expects a little bit of the slowing down, a little bit more intentional time together. How can they maneuver that?
Well, one thing that I'm learning is, depending on your family and where the age of your kids are at, but including them, you know, especially when my kids got older, I was able to bring my wife and my kids on trips. And, you know, wasn't able to do that when, of course, when they were real young. But for that middle-aged coach that might have some kids that are elementary age, they're out of school, to include them on a trip and then bring them. And I just look at some of these coaches that are being able to play in tournaments and see pictures of their family, and they kind of work/vacation in the middle of it. And that's really, really cool. And then I would just say this, kind of what comes to my mind is the opportunities that you are given for basketball coaches. It could be July, August. Take advantage of those times, the family time. And for me, it was kind of like depositing into the bank because, honey, it's coming up. You know, November, December, January are going to be crazy. So June, July, August, this is really where I'm trying to get more of that family time, maybe a trip, maybe a weekend. And so just being intentional about planning, because you know the storm's coming as far as, you know, coaching.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I think I listened to a podcast one time and they talked about how work-life balance is kind of a myth, that if you're actually always striving for work-life balance, you grow frustrated because it's almost impossible to achieve, right? But as you understand that there are seasons and that you don't cheat one season for another. You know, when there's recruiting season, there's recruiting season. And, you know, your family has to be a part of that discussion as well, so they understand what's coming up. You know, like ever since October, my life has been so busy. We've had almost 500 tennis matches on campus being played, right? And I have to be present at every single one of them. And so my wife and the kids know, like, Daddy, October and a little bit of November is going to be very busy. But that means that in a few weeks, we get to go to Brazil and hang out by the beach, you know? So I think, but the moment, you know, if I go back, if I'm in Brazil and I'm taking 5 hours out of the day to go do more work, then my family is going to feel cheated, you know, because I'm not keeping my side of the bargain. What do you think about that, Chad?
Yeah, I feel, just being present where you're at, you know, when you're at work, 100% giving your all. And when it is time to be home, I feel like we're tempted with that to keep giving attention there. But I think it kind of leads into just for the interviews coming up. One of the guys that I got to interview is Jeremy Pryor. He runs an organization called Family Teams, and we're going to release that here in December. And it'll be just a great episode to reflect on and think through, how are you leading at home. And he has a quote, I don't know if he came up with it or somebody else, but he said, who you are in a week is who you are. And I think it is important to know, like, cycles come throughout the year, annual cycles up and down, but each week as well, we need to be running our lives, running our families in a way that's not just running them into the ground. So who you are in a week is who you are. And you know, if you love your week, you know, you're going to love your year. So trying to be strategic and organizing your work week, trying to get a rest day in there to really rejuvenate, I think is key.
Yeah, that'll lead into
love that.
And looking forward to hearing that, Chad. And what I love about our podcast is, you know, being part of the trifecta here. You know, we have different personalities and different styles of interviewing. So Tuesday morning is always a highlight of mine to listen to not only the guest but also the interview and who's leading that. And so I think that's what's unique about our podcast. And I'm excited, as Chad Keller has been a friend of mine for the past 20 plus years, but he's an assistant coach at a Division II school here in Florida, Daytona Beach, battling cancer. And you would not even know this seeing this guy, but he's a warrior, he's a fighter. And it just reminds me of, coaches, when we tend to focus on ourselves and we look inward, there's always going to be different challenges. Maybe that tough loss, that recruit we lost, going through some personal things. But here's a guy that's just given it his all with an incredible attitude. I was at a practice and he was getting his treatment and having the chemo being dripped in, leading a defensive drill. And I'm like, what in the world is this dude doing? And man, he just gets me motivated to get up, to keep serving. So I'm excited for you guys to hear the conversation we had with Coach Keller.
Yeah. Well, while we're giving spoilers for the month of December, then I'll plug in my interview. And I got to interview Addison Bevere, who is the son of Lisa and John Bevere. And he's done tremendous work working with his parents. But now, he recently wrote a book on prayer, and it caught my attention. I listened to his interview with another podcast, and I was like, oh, I got to have him on the Christian Coach podcast, because I think prayer is one of those words where it's just out there in the ether, and it can mean so many different things. But it was great to have Addison on the podcast and talk about what is the true meaning of prayer and what is the true purpose of prayer. And he did a great job explaining that. His book, it's called Words with God, does a great job of explaining all those things. And he debunks some myths about prayer. And it was just a fun conversation to have as we lead into a new year, for us all to have a better prayer life. I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, no, and that's really good. I love the opportunity to hear from you guys interview and just learn from your wisdom. And I'm taking notes as I listen. But yeah, just I feel as we do reflect on rest here in December, as people are getting a break, it does just remind me of, yeah, man, I was horrible. I was horrible at that, and I still struggle, in my role as a chaplain. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. That to just turn things off, slow things down, be present with the Lord, be present with loved ones. And so I think for all of us heading into, why are we doing this podcast? Why are we serving as chaplains? Like we hope that you all will learn from our mistakes and do better than what we did. And so we're in it with you, coaches, and just know that it's not easy, but it's a battle, and we keep fighting.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else to add? Last few words of 2023 before we get into a new year. Chad, have you picked your word for 2024? You're a word guy.
I'm a word guy. The words was coming to me here leading up to Thanksgiving as the appetite was coming in. The word nourish was just heavy on my heart, and I think that'll be my word for next year. Just number one, be nourished by the Lord, be filled up by Him, and then as we go and speak, to nourish my wife, serve her, nourish my kids and my words, but also just nourish by sharing the word of God wherever we get to go.
I thought that was just an excuse to eat more next year. No.
Great word. I'll be honest. I am scared. I'm nervous. This will be my 6th year picking my word. And I look back over the past 5 years, I chose serve, surrender, ready, go, victory. And so each year I just look back and God did some big, scary things on some of the words that I chose. And those words became lifestyles and major career changes. And so I'm going into it a little apprehensive, excited, but just kind of like, all right, God, I'm praying through this word and I really want it to be something that He gives me. So got a little bit more time, but excited about choosing that word for 2024.
Awesome. Awesome.
What about you, G-Man?
I don't pick words, but I just picked the Lord. Just kidding. That was a Jesus juke right there. No, but one word that I've been thinking about a lot is pace. And I think it comes with rest and those things. I read a book and it talked about the difference between high achievers and high performers, right? I want to be a high achiever. I don't want to be a high performance that is 100% of the time. Like Jim said, just productivity. I get so much done. I do all these things, but figure out those rhythms of life. We, as a small group in church, we've been studying Sabbath. Like, how can I incorporate Sabbath into my weekly rhythm? And that's hard in today's society. It's really, really hard. But the more I study, the more I look into it, the more I crave it. I think we all crave that rest. And so pace will be my word for the unofficial word for the year.
Nourish, pace, and to be continued.
To be continued. Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Great again to see you. Talk with you guys. Another year in the books. 2024 is going to be amazing. And we'll catch you on the other side.
And don't forget that the mission field is right where you're at.